Chasers. With higher interest rates impacting investors, many buyers are looking at creative ways to boost their rental income. One popular strategy is building an extra dwelling like a granny flat on the property. While it's not possible in all situations, there are benefits to having a second residence on the property. In today's episode, we will be exploring some advantages and disadvantages of building a granny flat on your property. And as this is an accounting and tax topic, as a member of CPA Australia and a registered tax agent, I'm obliged to give you this general advice disclaimer before we begin.
The advice provided is general advice only, as in preparing it, we did not take into account your investment objectives, financial situation, or particular needs. Before making an investment decision on the basis of this advice, you should consider how appropriate the advice is to your particular investment needs and objectives. You should also consider the tax implications on your financial situation. Chris Becks, CPA member number 805103 and registered tax agent number 629430015, is a director of CBEX Business Solutions for Good and is authorized to provide accounting and tax advice.
Now that is done, let's dive into this episode. A granny flat is a self-contained secondary dwelling that is located on the same property as a single-family home or an investment property. It is typically designed for one or two people and can be used to accommodate aging parents, adult children, or other family members. Granny flats can be detached or attached to the main house or property, and they often have their own kitchen, bathroom, bedrooms, and living area. In Australia, granny flats are also known as accessory dwelling units or ADUs, accessory apartments or in-law apartments. The specific requirements for granny flats vary from state to state, so it is important to check with your local council before building or renovating one. Some of the features of a granny flat include being self-contained. A granny flat should have its own kitchen, bathroom, bedroom and living area. Attached or detached. Granny flats can be attached to the main residence or detached. Attached granny flats are often more affordable to build, but they may offer less privacy. Detached granny flats are more private, but they may require more land. On the same property. A granny flat must be located on the same property as the main property. Zoning requirements. Granny flats may be subject to zoning requirements in your area. And building permits. You may need to obtain building permits to build or renovate a granny flat. Granny flats can be a great way to provide additional living space for your family or to generate rental income. If you are considering building a granny flat, be sure to do your research and comply with all applicable regulations. If you are considering building a granny flat, here are some of the advantages. Cash flow and yield. One of the main benefits of building a granny flat is the potential for increased cash flow and yield. With a separate living space on the property, investors can generate extra rental income. Even during periods when the main residence is vacant or undergoing renovations, income from the granny flat can continue to flow, providing a reliable source of cash. Tax benefits. Investors may be eligible for certain tax benefits when they build a granny flat. If your costs are more than your market value rent for a granny flat, you can claim the loan interest, maintenance and insurance as tax deductions. Depreciation on the granny flat can help reduce their overall taxable income. This can result in significant savings, making it an attractive option. When you add on property for income, this becomes an asset and might trigger a CGT or capital gains tax event when you sell your home. If you run a business from home and have a separate room or space to conduct your business, Normally you may incur CGT anyway. A granny flat is no different, as rent is considered an income stream. If you charge rent, you'll lose some of your main residence exemption from CGT. Subdividing a granny flat may also incur CGT. Changes were made to granny flat rental arrangements in the 2020 budget, where a formal written agreement is in place enabling a CGT exemption that allows an eligible person the right to occupy property. For the agreement to be exempt from CGT, the person with the granny flat interest must be either of pension age or require assistance for day-to-day activities because of a disability. From the 1st of July 2021, CGT does not apply if a granny flat arrangement is created, varied or terminated. The CGT amount you might incur is determined based on your property's sale profit and the portion of land it occupies as generating income. CGT applies to a portion of the profit made. CGT will only apply to the years in which it generated income. If you have a granny flat and you can demonstrate that it was not used to generate income, the CGT exemption rule applies. In many cases, granny flats are built on children's property after the sale of the ageing parent's home. The ageing parent will pay cash to their child for the construction of their granny flat and live there exclusively for life. Make sure you have a written agreement between both parties so that any government payments that the ageing parent receives are unaffected and the older parent is legally protected. Be aware that the cash payment given to the child creates CGT liability and will need to be paid by the child when they sell their home. The 50% discount on the CGT for the disposal of an asset held over 12 months may not be available. To be exempt from CGT, the granny flat arrangement must be in writing, must indicate that both parties are legally bound, and must not be commercial in nature. The agreement should include both parties with ownership interests in the property, the circumstances in which the arrangement can be varied or terminated, and what happens when the arrangement is terminated. Agreements can be varied when something happens not included in the original agreement. Both parties are eligible to add in new terms and agreements, and also terminate and create a new agreement at any time. Some other advantages. Equity growth. Adding a granny flat to the property can lead to an increase in its overall value. While the equity growth may not match that of other dual-occupied properties like duplexes, it still provides some appreciation. Appeal to certain buyers. Granny flats offer flexibility in their usage, making them appealing to a wide range of tenants and potential buyers. They can serve as teenagers' retreats, guest spaces, home offices, or an extra bedroom. Development costs. Compared to extensive and expensive renovations, duplex developments or subdivisions, building a granny flat is relatively cost-effective. The lower development cost allows investors to expand their property portfolio without the huge increases in costs that come with bigger projects. Rental demand. Although granny flats are usually built for ageing parents or for older children, others are built with the intention of generating rent. In this instance, the rent you receive is assessable income, and you'll be obligated to pay tax at your marginal tax rate. Normal tax deductions do apply, which may offer significant advantages. There are advantages to building a granny flat with the purpose of charging rent. The rental could provide much needed cash flow. Many people prefer to live in granny flats, from students to people wanting to downsize and pay less rent themselves. Building a granny flat is usually cheaper than buying an investment property and can still offer tax deduction and negative gearing options. Adding a granny flat could increase the value of your home as it gives a newer owner rental options, or ability to look after their older children or aging parents themselves. It's also appealing to people looking for the benefits of an extra bedroom or separate space to use for a home office. Let's look at some disadvantages of a granny flat. Approvals and regulations. Building a granny flat may require complying to specific council rules and regulations, which can vary from one area to another. Obtaining the necessary approvals may not be quick, and there might be additional costs involved. Overcapitalisation. Investors must be careful without spending too much on any type of development. While a granny flat can add value, it may not always translate to a proportional increase in property valuation. Lenders may also be conservative in assessing the added value, limiting potential borrowing capacity. Limited buyer appeal. While granny flats can be attractive to certain tenants and buyers, they may not appeal to everyone. Families seeking larger homes may not find a property with a granny flat suitable, potentially narrowing the target market and reducing the pool of potential buyers when it comes time to sell. Opportunity cost. Before committing to a granny flat development, investors should carefully evaluate the opportunity cost of their investment. Consider whether the money used for the development could find higher returns elsewhere, such as a deposit for another investment property. Therefore, in summary, granny flats can be a great way to provide additional living space for your family or to generate rental income. If you are considering building one, be sure to do your research and weigh up the pros and cons carefully. If you're considering building a granny flat or purchasing a property with a granny flat for private or commercial reasons, it's best to seek the advice of a tax professional who can help you navigate tax and CGT implications and reduce the overall tax you might be obligated to pay. Thank you for listening. I'm Chris Becks, and I look forward to presenting our next episode to you.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the Chasers channel, we would love you to share it with your business friends and colleagues, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from CBEX Business Solutions for Good, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/CBEX, Instagram at CBEX, and on the internet at cbex.com. Thanks again, and we'll be sharing new info with you on our next episode.